So, Kev,
Yeah, mate.
yeah, um, I feel like I owe you an apology. I feel like I owe you an apology, if I'm honest with you. After last week, I feel really bad. I do feel bad.
Is it because you're not wearing the same coloured hat? I mean, Jeb did with me last week.
Yeah, that you've got your little, singular coloured hat gang. I don't have a beige. I wish I did. If that's my mission this week, to try and find a hat that's the same colour so I can fit in.
Yeah.
No, it's more the hosting thing, because I know it's been. You were so close last week. You were so close. You were.
I mean, I know that I was a little bit underhand going in before everybody else and just kind of starting it, but I just genuinely, I think I'd be all right at it, Rich. I think I'd do a good job for you.
I do, and I have seen, the hashtag, Kev for host has been kicking around. It's been. So I think, because it's just the two of us this week, mate. I think the best way I can apologise to you is to make this right. So if you just hold on just a second, just gonna do a little bit of. There you go. You're in the host seat now, Kev. I think episode 165 of Football Manager Therapy is the Kev hosting episode. I feel like it's correct. So
you're not playing with me, are you? Because
my hands are here. My hands are up. I'm no jiggery pokery, no messing about. It's
all right.
It's your time, mate.
Okay.
Take us away, pal.
I can do this. Thanks, Rich. I really appreciate it. This is going to be good. Right. Okay. Hi.
Hello there, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Football Manager Therapy. I am your host, Rich Owens. I'm back once again, very, very similarly to the Renegade Master. And alongside me, I have today, it's just the two of us today, Kev. It's my close personal friend from the internet, the United City FM, Kev. How are you today, buddy?
I've got motion sickness, Rich. It's all this moving from side to side. I mean, thanks for that. That was I've learned my place. I know, I understand. You taught me a lesson. It's fine. Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Thank you. It's lovely to see you. It's lovely to be here. You and me again, back at podcasting. We can do this. We've done this before.
At least,
right?
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, at least twice. At least we're going to be fine. We are. Just
it's good to see.
Just us two.
How are you doing, Rich? I know that you missed last week's. Some family stuff going on with some health and all that stuff. Hope everybody's good, and I hope you're doing all right.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, I am good. I'm good. Last weekend, bit of a blur. But everybody that was a bit poorly last weekend is significantly better now. So good. That's lovely. That's good. And might I also say, just a gentle golf claps for yourself and Jeb for just last week, just straight in there, just the two of you, no messing about. What a lovely episode. And I thank you for all of your incredibly sincere and kind words about my recent Premier League victory.
What can I tell you?
I know.
Something.
It didn't feel like it was bitter at all.
No,
and that's
no.
It's
not like we've been playing this for a year and a bit, and this is the first trophy.
No,
the Man United team.
No. Heartfelt sincerity across the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Harvey, it was honestly with his winners' medal.
Exactly. Harvey Barnes, Premier League winners' medal for Manchester United. In theory, scored the goal that won us the title if there'd been a massive swing of goals in that final game. But still, it's what matters. And I'm glad that it made you happy, mate.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Look at me go. Premier League winner.
I know, it's amazing. So because of our conversation that myself and Jeb had last week, I'd like to give a very, very quick update if I can. Last week, back-to-back promotions saw my Stoke City side in the Premier League and suggesting it was quite difficult. A week later, it's still really difficult. It's really, really difficult. I don't know when we're going to stay in the Premier League, but it's been fun finding out. But don't do back-to-back promotions. Is my thought. It's too successful. It puts too much pressure on, and it's just really, really hard.
Yeah, don't be good at Football Manager is the message that I'm getting from this motivational pep talk.
It's not worth it.
It's just not. It's just not worth it. It just plod along. Mediocrity, maybe the odd promotion here or there, maybe even chuck in a little sprinkling of relegation just to just to balance it out.
Ooh.
And then you've got an enjoyable and not particularly stressful Football Manager experience. If you're going to go out there and be good and win things, Kev, you're going to have to, you're raising the benchmark each time you do it. And that's the problem you've got.
It is. We're here for the community. That I hope that they can take something from that,
Yeah. So if there's one thing you're going to take away from this episode, friends, it's that just phone it in. Just phone it in on FM. You're going to be fine. Is there, would you say there's been any particular aspect of, your back-to-back promotions? Obviously, you're now in the Premier League. We were having a little chat before we went live about some of the roadblocks that are kind of in your way. And we realized when we were chatting before we started recording that there's a couple of things that, not just in your save, Kev, I think once you actually vocalized it, it's something that I'm like, actually, this is something that I've seen a lot of across my saves, especially this year, especially FM24. And that's players kind of coming to you with 18 months, with 2 years left on their deals, and just having awkward conversations with you, isn't it?
It kind of is. It really. Okay, so the scenario for my week has been a weird one. So you have to take it in the context of my mind is a bit of a logical brain. It likes logic and it likes things to make sense. And this kind of didn't make much sense to me, right? So 2 seasons ago, we were in League One with Stoke City. And that's fine. That's where we found ourselves. I bought some players in that I knew were overpowered for League One because we were Stoke City and we could get away with it and bring them in. And it worked. We got up. And then we got into the Championship, predicted 15th, and we got up again, and that was ridiculous. I don't know what happened, but we are now in the Premier League. And this week, on a day in the save, 6 of my first team squad came to me with about 18 months left on their deal and went, I'm going to be leaving at the end of my contract. And okay. I understand that footballers are a contrary bunch and they are perfectly within their rights to go and do whatever they want to do and look at their alternative options and all that kind of stuff. I just got them back-to-back promotions. They were playing in League One, half of these, 2 seasons ago. And they're not prepared to wait till the end of this current season to go, maybe we'll still be in the Premier League and that would be awesome. And then I will sign a new deal with them because we're in the Premier League. But no. Apparently, they are that scared of potentially being a Championship player again that they're not willing to stick around. So, half a dozen of my top quality first team squad have all come to me this week and gone, nah. Words, Rich, words. But it's that thing, it's that random thing of player interaction, staff interaction. It's got to make sense to me. And I understand there are going to be 1 or 2 players in there that think if we get relegated, I think I'm better than that. And they probably are, 1 or 2 of them. But most of them were in League One with me. That just doesn't work for my brain. And I couldn't quite figure out what that meant for my team moving forward because I'm Stoke City in the Premier League and we don't have a lot of money. And if I've lost 6 of my team, I'm going to have to sell them this coming summer, potentially to make money on them before their deal runs out. And completely turns what I want to do with my Stoke side.
It makes it so much more difficult, doesn't it? And I think it's something that I think I've noticed a lot more of in FM24 than I have done in previous versions of FM. I think I can think of maybe a handful of circumstances I had it FM23. I had a fullback when I was at Midtjylland at the end of my Scandi Triple Crown save, and he announced at the beginning, just after I got there, he was like, "Oh yeah, just so you know, when my contract expires, I'm out the door." And I was like, "Okay." He was, I think, it's my second choice, not one of my second choice fullbacks, and I'm thinking to myself, well, if he goes, it's not going to be the end of the world.
Yeah.
But then when I actually learned about the player registration rules and regulations and the restrictions, I was like, actually, he would be a helpful player to have at the club. Kept offering me a new deal, and he kept saying, no, not happening. I've made up my mind, and I'm going 100%. I'm leaving. I'm like, okay, fair enough. I signed a replacement. Ready to come in, the following summer after this lad's contract expired. I'm like, okay, this will all be fine. We've dealt with it. It's not ideal, but it is what it is. And then the new season starts, new fullback arrives. I'm like, oh, fantastic. There you go. There's his replacement. And I'm looking at my squad list. I'm like, the old fullback's still here. What's going on? And then you look and he's like, he signed a new contract. Like, when's he done that? And I was like, I went back and I checked. Went through the emails. I was like, I couldn't find anything in there because I actually remembered not even offering him a deal. There was at no point did I say, right, here's an offer. Do you want it? You'd go to the contract negotiations, and it was always that first screen, just like, no interest of negotiating with you, and you just have to walk away. You're like, well, it is what it is. Yeah. But at some point, I don't know if it's director of football or what, but they've gone in and like, hey, do you want a little contract? And he's gone, oh, actually, now stop and think about it.
Was it just an extension to a contract? Because
no, new deal,
games or something. New deal completely.
No, completely new deal. Yeah, it was like another. It's signed for another 2 years. I was like, oh, that's ever so strange. Like, what's going on there? And then within a month, he'd come to me. All right, boss, I've had a little think about this, and you know what? I think I'm probably going to leave at the end of my contract. I'm like, are you now? Are you really? I don't know. But that almost like that sets the precedent in your head, because whenever it happens now, and you have players that come to you like, oh, just so you know, 18 months time, I'm off out the door, and I'm now like predetermined to sit there and go, are you? Are you really off? Are you sure? Are you sure about that? Are you threatening me? Because I don't respond well to threats. Enjoy the reserves. And then it become the end of it. Oh, boss, I've actually had to think about it. I think I'm going to stay. It's like, are you? What are the chances? Really high, as it turns out. Very, very high.
Is there a difference though, Rich, in when somebody comes to you and says they're not happy with their playing time and the blah, 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 so they might want to leave, compared to somebody actually coming and saying, at the end of my contract, I am going to explore my options? Is there a difference in what the ultimate outcome is, do you feel? Because I'm convinced that if I were to just leave this, all of those players will leave my club at the end of their contract. That's my feeling. Whereas if they're unhappy because they're not getting playing time or they want a new contract or whatever, sometimes half a season later they go, actually, it's all right. Is there a difference?
I mean, I think there is. I think the playing, like, for example, if somebody comes to you and says, oh, I'm really not happy with my playing time, that's a measurable metric. Like, because I've kept the player promises reminders on for me, because I know if I don't, I'll forget. So you can see it's there as a visual reminder that, you've made a promise to a certain player. I had it with Retro Barcelona. Gio dos Santos wanted more game time and he was getting really grumpy, wanted to leave. And I was like, I'd like to try and keep him at the club on account of that. In that universe, he's one of the best wonder kids in world football.
It helps.
It does help. It does help. One real lifeline to Ipswich 6 months later. Oof, crikey, Gio, crikey. How the mighty fell so quickly. I'll try and keep him. So I was objectively trying to start him as many games as possible, or at least, he was my off the bench option for his role. And you can see his happiness slowly increasing, and that's fine. When you see a player come to you and they just say, I'm going in 18 months, I find it's quite rare that there's anything that you can do to talk them out of it.
Yeah.
I think I've had one interaction with a player I can remember where that's actually worked. It was Xavi in the Retro Barca save. He came to me towards the end of the season and said, all right, boss, I've got 18 months left of my contract. I'm probably going to go and look for a new challenge somewhere else. And I was like, I'd like to keep Xavi at the club if possible, because again, quite good at football.
Just a bit.
Just quite good at passes, passes. And we had a chat, and I was like, hey, what can I do to keep you here? Because normally if you do that, they're like, no, my mind's made up. No, nothing personal. I'm off. See you later. With Xavi, he went, I might stay. I might consider staying. If you could promise me a league title, if we can win the league, I'll change my mind and I'll stay. And in that particular interaction, I was very, very happy to say, yes, actually, you know what, Xavi? Yes, I will promise you a league title and I'd like you to stay. And he goes, all right, well, fair enough. We'll see what happens. For context, Kev, as this conversation was taking place, there were 7 games to go that season.
Right.
I needed 1 point from 7 games to win the league title.
But Ken, it's just not logical, is it? It's just Xavi, you're an idiot.
Yeah, we had a game 2 days later, which we won. And then literally 2 days later, I could see it in the inbox, there was the, Xavi wants to discuss his future. And then within 2 days, it was like, Xavi's now happy to stay at Barcelona. I was like, is he? That's weird. I was like, well, I tell you what, mate, we pulled it out the bag for you in that last fixture. We were doing that for you, mate. And if we'd lost that one, we only had 6 other chances at doing it. So it doesn't make any sense, but he's the only one where I've actively persuaded him to stay based on something. The rest of them, every other version, and it's happened at every single club in my What's the Story save. There have been players at every single club that have come to me and said, I'm going in 18 months. Yeah. I'm like, okay, fair enough. And if I've still been at the club in 18 months' time, they've always stayed. Like, there's not been a single one of them that I've lost on a free transfer after they've initially said to me, you know what, end of my deal, I'm out the door. I think there was one circumstance where I could have played it out. I think Donny van der Beek, when I had him at Saint Etienne, he came to me saying, excuse me, I'd like a new challenge. I'm probably going to leave. And because of his value, I was like, you know what, I can cash in and that's fine. I'm happy to do that. The rest of them, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to call your bluff, sir. But then at the same time, it's difficult for me because at no point were those 6 of my first team players doing it simultaneously. Yeah. And that makes it a much, much more difficult decision to make, doesn't it? Because, you know, you're losing essentially the core of your first team.
And you know full well that I don't know, let's pick out one. I've got this right winger called Podesta who has been very good for me. He's not like, you wouldn't say he's world class, but he's certainly able to play in the upper championship, lower Premier League and do pretty well. But for me, considering where I come from, he's very good. And he's currently got, I don't know, I haven't got it in front of me, but if he's currently valued at like £30 million, let's say, you know, this summer I'm not going to get offers over 15. Just because, you know, because people know that I need to kind of sell him because otherwise you'll, you know. And so all of a sudden, my big assets are not big assets anymore. And they're, you know, this magical rebuild with millions of pounds that I'm going to get from all of these sales just isn't going to happen. I'm going to have to shop on a shoestring, as it were, because ultimately I haven't been able to get finances. And probably with Stoke, I've got about 60% of the transfer revenue coming into my transfer budget anyway, you know? So it's going to be a really tricky one. So the question is on my British Isles Journey series is, will it mean that I then don't stay with them because it's sort of one hand behind my back a little bit? So I've got some feelers out as to some other situations that are going on to see if there are other opportunities out there. But I don't want to leave because I've got back-to-back promotions with them. I'd like to see us move up the league, etc. But it's going to be a tricky summer. I mean, it'll be an interesting summer, and there's an aspect of the summer transfer windows and reimagining a squad and sort of putting something together is one of my favorite parts of the game. But that's a slightly different one when it's like half of your team are just going, nah, see ya.
It's tough, isn't it? Like it's that gamble because on the one hand, they're either all leaving on a free, and then you're kind of in trouble.
Yeah.
Or some of them might turn it around. But then when they inevitably do, you can guarantee that particular right-sided player, you'll sign a replacement. Because you think, you know what, he's going. And then you'll sign a replacement. And he'll go, oh, actually, Kev, do you know what? I think I'm going to stay, you know. As it turns out, I quite like Stoke. And go, oh, of course you are. And then you'll want to sell him, and then nobody will be interested.
Nope.
So it really is a gamble. It's lucky, I suppose, that it's not necessarily, you know, the basis of your save isn't one club save based. Because if you're doing like a one club save and that happens, that just alters the trajectory of the save completely.
For the next 3 seasons, it completely changes your course, doesn't it? And it is one of the reasons why I'm incredibly nervy about doing a one club save. And, you know, maybe, you know, there's something in the fact I should just grow a backbone. And if I decide to do it, get on and do it. But I very much don't do long-term one club saves because of that reason, that I know full well, however funny it will be, I'll be the guy a season in, having connected up to a club and got them on board and had press conferences in real life like certain other members of our community have done with their clubs, and they'll sack me. in game within a season, and I'll be sitting there going, well, what do I do now? I've got this connection to this club. What do I do? Start again or what? I just know it will happen to me, so I'm very reticent to do it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough one, isn't it? It really is. Like, again, and I know that FM25 is a long, long ways away yet. You know, we've still got a considerable amount of time. I just keep once a week, probably once a week on average. Just I'm getting, do a Sheffield Wednesday save. Pop into my head. It's like, go on, do a Sheffield. You know, it'd be really, really good fun. Do a Sheffield Wednesday save. I'm like, I don't know if I could. But then I talked myself into it. But then but what if you get sacked? What if 6 months in, you're on the chopping block? What do you do then? Like, cry? Probably. Just like feel an enormous shame, I think is the most logical outcome there.
Now, you see, I have similar thoughts about United. Being a Man United fan and having the season that we've had, I know that there are levels, and I know that there are teams further down the pyramid that are struggling immensely financially and might go under and all sorts of awful things. But as a United fan, this season isn't good. And I'm allowed to feel that about my team, although some suggest that maybe I shouldn't and I should, all that kind of stuff. That's fine. But I do. I feel that about my team. They're not having a good season. So occasionally I sit there and go, I could do a United save just for myself, just to go, I can make you better. And then for the last few months, on a weekly basis, there's also been the thought of, Rich is messing up my Man United team. I could do better. But now I can't because you've won the bloody league. Sorry, excuse my language, but it is what it is. But yeah, it is just the way it is. You won the league. What can I do? But I'd love to do a Man United save, but there's an aspect of it where, to be honest, it's just a bit easy. Within 2 seasons, you've sorted them out financially. You've cleared out the deadwood. You've got a system that works. You've got multi-millions of pounds coming into the club. And ultimately, you can win things. And so it becomes that thing of, I won't bother then, which is unfortunate because it's what I used to do quite a lot of back in the day. Just because I enjoyed it. But yeah, I get it. That thing of I want to manage my club, but the pain of it if it doesn't work out, especially if you're going through the pain of it IRL at the moment as well. I get it totally.
Yeah, it's not the nicest concept, is it? But then you think to yourself, but what, like 3 or 4 years in, you get a decent, you fluke a League Cup win. It's going to be the best feeling in the world. I was like, yeah, but it's just not going to happen, though, is it? It's just not going to happen. So yeah, maybe not. Maybe I'll just toy with that idea. Toy with Sheffield Wednesday for the next 6 months, and then just do something completely different when FM25 comes out. Anyway, yeah, exactly. Yeah, just build it up, and then just never get around to doing it. That is the Rich Owens way.
Here's a teaser for you, Rich.
Oh,
do you want a teaser?
Absolutely, I do, Kev.
I might be going around the world in FM25.
Yes, Kev. Go on, all the way around, all the way.
All the way.
The whole way round.
I mean, like not every stop along the way.
Yeah.
But I'll be circumnavigating the world in my FM25 save in a way.
In a way. Nice. There you go. You heard it here first. Who knew? You did. Nobody else.
I did.
Now everyone
now that when FM25 launches that I'm doing a British Isles save, that I've chickened out of going around the world.
So Kev, what's your idea for FM25? Just gonna do United, Rich. Just do United. Yeah. Just don't want to.
Or I've either chickened out or FM24 broke me enough just to go, I'm just playing as United and you can't stop me.
That's it. I'm done. That's all I'm doing. All I'm doing forever. It's fine. I'm just doing season 1 over and over and over and over again. New save every season. That's the plan. It's good. It's refreshing to hear, though. It is nice to hear that, there's already people that are thinking a little bit about what they're going to be doing next. I saw a tweet earlier this week from one of the Football Manager accounts. They're like, hey, just a little reminder for everybody that November's not that far away, and here's all the new things that are going to be included in the game. Brand new match engine and women's football. I looked at that, I went, what's the date today? No, still 6 months away. But I was like, oh, that's exciting. That's going to be so much fun. So it made me want to think. It made me start thinking about Football Manager 25, and it's nice to hear that there are other people who, in a roundabout kind of way, have got little ideas, got little things they're thinking about. There has actually been, Kev. And this is a lovely little segue, by the way. We've stumbled into this really, really nicely.
It, Rich. You can do this.
We were talking about one club saves, and we're talking about, especially like, look, take our boy Callum as an example. Slough Town icon.
Yeah, he is.
He's not favoured personnel. He's not a legend club icon. Why Callum? Obviously, he's got his adventures with Slough going on at the moment.
He has.
And there's a certain aspect of, kind of like non-league English football that makes, that it can happen during a non-league save. There are little bits and pieces that can happen during non-league saves that might give you a little bit of an advantage every now and then. And that's obviously a good cup run, because good cup run with a non-league club on Football Manager or in real life, massive, massive financial bonuses for accomplishing one of those. Obviously, Kev, that's not going to be the case anymore by the looks of things. No. After this week's news broke, the FA's decision to scrap cup replays, which, we were joking before we recorded the podcast. Hey, we could just, do like 10-second segments in Football Manager Therapy. It's like, so Kev, they've scrapped replays in the FA Cup. What do you think? It's bad. Yeah, rubbish. Like that's going to have a big impact on on the people like the Y Callums of the world. Non-league saves, FA Cup replays are gone. That's going to be huge moving forwards.
It really is. Now, I could absolutely sit here and play devil's advocate a little bit as a supporter of one of the big six in the Premier League and all that kind of stuff, and say why I think it's a good idea and the right idea for the the bigger sides and the blah de blah and all that kind of stuff. I could do that. I'm not going to do that, but I could do that. I saw a really great tweet this week, and I can't remember who it was, and I can't remember the exact wordings, but the essentials are there of basically responding to what Arteta had said in his press conference about, there's too many games for our players and they need to be rested more and the blah de blah. And this tweet was basically saying, yes, but you're not challenging whether there should be a two-legged knockout stage in the Champions League to lessen your playing time. You're not challenging the fact that you're going off to Dubai every other month for a warm weather training and traveling halfway around the world to do it. You're not challenging whether you go off to these far-flung countries in pre-season to do money-grabbing tours of half a dozen fixtures in front of fans over there. You're not doing any of these things. But what you're deciding is that ultimately what's necessary is to take away replays in the FA Cup, because it will take away some games potentially from your schedule. I also saw a statistic the other day that was the amount of replays that have had an effect on some of these big teams. There's not a lot of them, Rich. If I'm totally honest with you, there's not a lot of them. So ultimately what they've done is that they've gone, we want to reduce our playing time for our players because we need to protect them so much. We don't want to take away all the big amounts of money that we could do by pushing our players in lots of different directions. So what we're going to do is we're going to take away this aspect because it's a bit of an inconvenience to us once in a blue moon to have to play it. And on top of that, Kev on his high horse and on his soapbox, on top of that, I am a fan of one of these big six clubs, but on top of that, they didn't ask anybody else.
No.
They just went, we'd quite like this to happen. And the FA went, well, we'd best make it happen then. And stuff what everybody else needs, and stuff whether ultimately we can find financial packages that are going to help all of these other clubs in compensating them for what they might lose and how that might work right the way down the pyramid, and stuff the fact that there's 70 odd clubs in the Football League that are not being consulted, or that there's another bunch of them in the Vanarama National League, or there's hundreds of other amateur clubs up and down the country that enter the FA Cup every season that we're not going to pay any attention to, that are actually at grassroots and need these kinds of moments. Stuff all of that. We're just going to make it so our lot can still go on their trips to Dubai and their pre-season tours to Japan and US. And we might even put a Premier League match over in America at some point in the next decade, because, I mean, that's the way we should be definitely doing things, isn't it? And it's an absolute madness. And it's another indication, a bit like the Super League a few years ago, of people money grabbing in all sorts of ways and not actually concerning themselves with the grassroots of football. Now, I know that my club are part of that problem. I am absolutely aware of the ownership of my club and the fact that they were a big proponent of the Super League, and now they're not standing up for the smaller members of our footballing community and saying we need to support them and stuff. I desperately, and I know that it's a lost cause, but I desperately want my club to be the one that stands in the midst of it and goes, no, let's carry on doing the tradition. Let's support the fact of grassroots football. Let's make the FA Cup what it's always been, which is a linchpin of football in this country. I want my club to do that. And they're not. And that's as annoying to me as it is to anybody else that's being affected by this decision, because I want them to be better and they're not. It's an absolute madness. It's ridiculous. I stand with all of those other clubs up and down the country that thinks it's a madness. I don't know whether our voices will be heard on it. I don't know what the politicians will do now that they're involved in it, but it's certainly a madness.
It really, really is. I think it just increases that level of separation from your, mega rich, multi-billion pound clubs to just everybody else below them. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think football at grassroots level needs as much support and income as it can possibly get, and there aren't many clubs below. Crikey, there aren't many clubs below League One level, for example, that wouldn't hugely benefit from an FA Cup away day at one of the big clubs.
Yeah,
there are clubs at that level where that level of income is gonna, that in some cases is going to keep the clubs afloat. It's crazy. I remember a very, very long time ago, one of my local clubs, Worcester City, made it through to the second round of the FA Cup. Played Huddersfield. It was on telly. It was wonderful. We were all very, very excited. Couldn't get into the ground for love nor money, because just everybody from Worcester turned up to try and watch this game, and got beaten 1-0 by Huddersfield in the FA Cup second round. And everyone was like, you know what? It is what it is. What an adventure. What a story. Didn't we have a good time? Yes, we did. Everyone's happy. It is what it is. And then everyone went to the pub and we're watching the FA Cup third round draw, because this was one of the final fixtures in the second round. And if Worcester City had won that game against Huddersfield, they would have got drawn away to Chelsea in the third round of the FA Cup. And the money from that game, like that was like the mood. When that happened, the mood shifted, because everyone was like, this is so depressing, because the money from that one fixture would have sorted that club out for years.
Yeah.
If Chelsea had to come to us, like again, the money from that, if they get a replay there, the money sorts it out. And it's like, there are almost clubs that, you're a non-league team and you get drawn at home against a higher division team. You're like, right, backs against the wall, lads, 11 men behind the ball for 90 minutes, because we want that replay, we want that away fixture at a Premier League club or a Championship club. And the opportunities to get those, like that's almost like, that's the FA Cup final for some of those teams. That's what they want. And it makes such a huge difference to them. And to take that away from them, to take the idea of that away from them, is devastating. It helps such a very, as you say, in theory, it helps such a proportionately small amount of teams. And all it helps them do, as you rightly say, Kev, it helps them fulfill other commitments that they have that they don't need to be doing. Like you're right, in 2 or 3 years' time, we're going to be watching, Chelsea play Man City in the Premier League, but it's hosted in Dubai. But heaven forbid, they would have to play a midweek cup replay against Halifax just before that, because that's just that doesn't benefit anybody. Yes, it absolutely does. It absolutely does.
I think the other thing that I'd like to make a point of here, though, and if I'm not careful, it comes across that I'm sort of pseudo supporting the big clubs, and I'm not in any way. I think it's a ridiculous decision, but there is a but here, and it's not a but on what the decision is. It's about who's made it. Because what our conversation could potentially go down the route of, and what I've seen a lot of other conversations go down the route of, it's Man United's fault, it's Liverpool's fault, it's Arsenal's fault, it's Chelsea's fault, it's Man City's fault, it's Tottenham's fault, it's Newcastle's fault, etc., etc. And they're all evil and awful and devastating to the game. And in a lot of ways they are. But what are the FA doing? What are the FA doing? This is their competition. They are looking in on it, and their immediate reaction should be, stuff you lot. This is a traditional competition. It is supposed to affect grassroots football and help everybody in the game be part of the same competition. You've got the magic of the FA Cup of little teams being able to go and bring a big team to their ground on a muddy pitch in some random far-flung place and get a result of some sort that means they now go to Old Trafford for a payday or whatever. This should be the FA's focus. Why isn't it? What are they gaining from the fact that these big clubs are saying no? They're gaining probably financially themselves for what the Premier League are willing to put into their competition and other bits and pieces. And the fact that they'll probably say, oh, well, if you don't do what we want, we probably won't play in it and we'll dip out of it. And you can, all that and the chaos that would then bring across the game and stuff. I understand that these big clubs are badly in terms of what their focus is and how they're not looking after the smaller clubs and all that stuff. And there's a debate as to how responsible they should be for smaller clubs and other bits and pieces. That's a different conversation. But in this instance, what are the FA doing? And that's the point that I feel like I'm not seeing enough about them not having their house in order and them not being strong enough to say, this is the competition and this is how it's going and this is what we are going to do. They are bowing to pressure from big teams. The big teams are bad for doing it, but what are the FA doing?
It's a very, very good question. It's learned behavior, isn't it? If you know that you can do something that isn't right and you can get away with it, you're probably going to try and do it in some capacity. And the FA just not putting their foot down and saying, absolutely not. But we're not doing this. Like you're giving clubs carte blanche to behave in that way. And
they didn't even say we will consult everybody and make a decision for everybody in that sense. They just went, okay.
They went, yep, that's fine. That's fine. If it's something that's going to affect every club every club should be able to have a say. Every club should be able to. It's like, and the beauty of the FA Cup is that every football club at some level, everyone's eligible. You don't have to be a professional football club. Semi-professional clubs, amateur clubs can apply. And, obviously you're going through, months and months and months of qualification for it, but you still have the opportunity. And that's one of the things I love about the FA Cup. Everybody gets to go.
And even negotiating some of these things to eventually come to the conclusion that we've got, if the negotiations were, okay, from our perspective as a football league, as a national league, as amateur clubs, if this is the compensation deal for it, then that's fine, because we will still get something of what we need to sustain ourselves, etc., and it will go right the way down the pyramid. If that would have been part of the negotiations, and the English Football League came out and said, we were consulted very rigorously, we don't necessarily want this to happen, but we feel like there is a deal in place that is good for us and that benefits us in some way, X, Y, and Z, then we're okay. But because none of that happened at all, what are they doing?
I know, it's bonkers, isn't it? It's absolutely bonkers. It doesn't make any sense to me. Again, I've seen people's responses be, but just because it's a tradition doesn't mean it can't be changed. I'm like, no, you are right, but at the same time, if it was a bad tradition, like if there's right, the tradition is in FA Cup fixtures, all the teams come out with their mascots, and every mascot gets kicked by the first team. It's like, no, we can probably cancel that. That can go away. We don't know. That's just because it's tradition doesn't mean it's a good one. But like taking away replays and giving these smaller clubs the opportunity to go to a Premier League stadium, for example. It just kneecaps them, and it doesn't make any sense.
Come on, viewers, who in the chat, who in our viewership thought Rich's idea of kicking mascots was a good idea, and there should be
there's going to be somebody out there. That's the new hashtag, isn't it? You know, Kev for host and kick a mascot. Them's the ones. Everyone just booting Aussie Yell in his big costume for the Wednesday. The only other thing I will say about this, and I think this to me is the spoke volumes about this debate. There was a clip that's been going around recently of Pep from after the Chelsea City game recently, and he's basically saying the fact that they scheduled this game 3 days after a Champions League fixture at this point in the season is a joke. And you know, and the host say, well, okay, what have you formally, you know, complained about this? Have you written? It's like, well, there's nothing I can do. All I can do is talk about it and hope that changes happen. And he's furious. And then the response to that tweet was quite wonderful from, I think it was from let's have a look at it. I think it was from Scoops Callahan, good old Scoops. He was like, just for context, here is Troro's schedule over the last 12 days, because obviously they're a club who've been affected enormously by adverse weather. Their pitch has been flooded, haven't been able to play. Fixtures have been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. It's gonna so between the 8th of April and the 20th of April, here are the league fixtures Truro have played. They've played Torquay on Monday the 8th. Then on Wednesday the 10th, they played Eastbourne. Then on Thursday the 11th, they played Yeovil. Then on Saturday the 13th, they played Maidstone. Then on Tuesday the 16th, a huge 3-day gap between fixtures, they had Dover. Then on Thursday of that week, they had Weymouth. And then finally, Saturday just gone, they had an away fixture against Dartford. So they had 7 competitive games of football in 12 days. I will guarantee you, Kev, if in that 12-day run, if somebody said, "Oh, you've got an FA Cup replay at Anfield, are you sure about that?" They're like, "Yep, let's go to Anfield, please and thank you. We'll do it on the same day. We'll do it lunchtime one day, then we'll play the evening that day as well." Like, because there is no way under any circumstances a club at that level would turn down the opportunity to go and play a competitive game at a Premier League stadium. Absolutely not.
Or anywhere else.
Anywhere else for that matter. Wouldn't happen. Absolutely wouldn't happen. So the fact that you've got the bigger clubs making the argument that, you know, fixture congestion and players, be better. Sort yourselves out. There we go.
Agreed.
Well, I think we've told them. Hopefully, so just this week's episode, just send links to the FA, and they'll have a listen. And fingers crossed, we can get something done. All sorted. We've talked a little bit there, Kev, about how football can be a little bit rubbish sometimes, and I think, in the spirit of fairness, probably, you know, there's also good football, as it turns out. And
are we going to talk about your Man United winning a league again?
We are. So Harvey Barnes, Kev, has scored so many vital goals for me in a Manchester United shirt. Honestly, the fact they're not building.
This is the thing, viewers. When he starts talking about Harvey Barnes, all I hear is that old cartoon thing of wah 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 wah. Yeah, that's all I hear.
It's all completely normal, isn't it? It's all completely normal. No. We're a podcast based around Football Manager, aren't we, Kev? And, you know, sometimes occasionally we're a podcast based around Football Manager. Unless Callum is picking Mammoths to play in his 6-a-side team in goal. Justifiable, apparently. Not according to the popular vote, though. So anyway, sometimes it's really, really nice to see managers in real life replicating some people's achievements in Football Manager, because we all know you start to save up, you join a club, and it's always eyebrows have been raised because this player doesn't have a huge amount of experience in management. And then within a couple of seasons, you know, you've won a league title somewhere, and you know, you're thinking, in your face, original press conference, that'll show you. Xabi Alonso, Kev.
Yes,
good old Xabi Alonso. He's living the Football Manager dream in real life, and it's incredible. It's so good. So obviously at the time of recording, they have now wrapped up their first ever Bundesliga trophy with games to spare, which has been quite incredible. They are on, Kev, for, even in FM terms, the incredibly rare undefeated season. And this is a manager who, to all intents and purposes, not to discount the time he spent managing Real Sociedad's B team for 2 or 3 years, he's 2 years into his first full professional job in football. That's an absolute madness, right? We're watching something special happening in front of us.
I think we are. I really do. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I watch a lot of the Bundesliga. I don't have the connection to it massively so. I have watched bits this season because of what's been going on and paid a bit more attention than maybe I usually would. Because let's face it, most of the time by February, everybody goes, Bayern have won it. And you go, of course they have. And then we all move on with our lives. It's fine, But on this occasion, that hasn't been the case. So I have been sort of paying attention to it a little bit. I can't sit here and tell you exactly how he's done it in terms of the tactical style and how he's identified what the weaknesses of everybody else is and what he's done that's completely unique to him that nobody else has ever done in football ever. Can't tell you any of those kinds of things. What I can tell you is this guy was obviously a very, very intelligent footballer. You could see that on the pitch, his ability to connect up play and be one step ahead of other people around him and other things was, a very, very pronounced quality that he had on a football pitch. And not always does that relate to then becoming a manager and being able to put that into other people and say, this is how we're going to set up, this is what I want you to do, and get them to do it. We see teams struggling with their identity and the way of their play, and their manager not being able to quite replicate what he did on a football pitch for other people all the time. And yet this guy, who has had a world-renowned career, won pretty much everything in the game, has stepped into management in a league where, let's face it, what is it, 11 seasons in a row Bayern have won the league? I'm sure it's something
it sounds about right, yeah.
Seasons. Think about that. If you're not connected to German football, 11 seasons in a row, they have won their league. And once or twice in there, a couple of teams like Dortmund have got a bit close to them. But most of the time, it's done by about February and everybody knows where it's going. And this time round, Leverkusen, with, let's face it, I've seen enough of them to know they don't have the squad of Bayern Munich. On paper,
absolutely
they don't
not
have a squad of anybody else magical around the world on paper, but they are well drilled, well coached, well structured. They've got a style that everybody buys into. He knows how to express what he wants from them, and he has put them on a football pitch and then occasionally pulled out some amazing moments against the likes of Bayern Munich themselves, etc. But mostly just gone and beaten teams in and around them and built a season on it. And it's amazing. And he is phenomenal. And there's another aspect of what happens to him next that I think is incredible as well, because let's face it, this is a guy that has played for Real Madrid. He's played for Liverpool. He's got connections to all sorts. Did he? Who did he play for in Germany? If anybody, did he? Did he play for Bayern?
I feel like he played for Bayern, I'm going to have to...
He possibly did. And if he did, and we'll find that out in a second because my knowledge of everybody isn't completely complete.
He did, yeah. He finished his career at Bayern, 3 years there.
So he played for Bayern. He played for Liverpool. He played for Real Madrid. Bayern and Liverpool and possibly Madrid are all going to be looking for managers in the summer. And he's already kind of just gone, nope. Now that's incredible. That is think about how incredible that is. Now it still might be that money talks and he ends up somewhere this summer. It might. You never know what people might put on the table that eventually his club and him go, well, we can't turn it down. It's ridiculous. But at the moment, he is at the top of his game. He has produced something that is up there with the likes of Leicester City in the Premier League, in its in the fact that they've never won this before, and it's something new and unique and different to their league and the surroundings. And he's already gone, those 3 big clubs that I've played for and have connection to and love, I'm not just going to jump ship. I'm going to stay where I am and continue the trajectory of my career because I feel like this is right. That's unheard of. That's unmatched in so many ways, and all the credit to him. Now, what that means for him long term, I have no idea, because this summer, if Bayern find a new manager and Liverpool find a new manager and Real Madrid maybe find a new manager, and all 3 of those continue to thrive under whoever it shows up, what are his options moving forward potentially? Is it just to stay at Leverkusen for now? And if it is, fair enough, because what a job he's doing. But it's a really interesting situation. All the kudos to him for this season and the way that the club have gone about it and the way that they have set themselves up and structured themselves to get to where they are. But the fact that he's turned down these big teams is remarkable in this day and age of football.
Oh yeah, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. I think what he's accomplished, I think with the squad that he's got, it's not a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. Like, if you looked at this team and said, your expectations were to finish, push for a Champions League place, you'd say, yeah, given the structure of German football, you think that's probably achievable, because obviously, you've got your Bayern, you've got your Dortmunds, you've got the likes of your RB Leipzigs, and then you're gonna Leverkusen are going to be there or thereabouts in that kind of part of the conversation. But it's not a team of superstars. He's got some very good players in there, but it's not a squad of superstars across the board. I'm a big advocate of Jeremy Frimpong. Obviously, big part of my title win with Manchester United in the network save. I'm a big Frimpong advocate. I know people that have played any PvP on Football Manager for the last couple of years will know that you've got Grimaldo out there on the left hand side, both very, very effective fullbacks. But you go through the rest of it, and it's Florian Wirtz is one of the next big things in German football. He's got a very exciting career ahead of him. But you take those 3 out, and the rest of it, they're not bad players by any stretch of the imagination. But it's not a team of superstars. Like Granit Xhaka, was very good at Arsenal, but he's not that kind of upper echelon midfielder. They bought in Borja Iglesias from Real Betis on loan just because he's big. They bought in a big meaty striker, which I know Kev's a big fan of. They've got, but they've not got like Nathan Teller has been really, really good for them this year. Nathan Teller was a below level Premier League player at Southampton 2 years ago. What he's accomplished, and to have done it with that team as well. Because if his first job in management had been Real Madrid and he'd gone undefeated in the season, Real Madrid, everyone go, well, that's very good, but it's also Real Madrid. He's done it with Bayern Leverkusen. Well, at the time of recording, undefeated this year with Bayern Leverkusen. And if that record goes before the end of the year, it doesn't really matter that much, does it? If he accomplishes it, it's incredible. It's one of the best managerial accomplishments ever to have done it in all it's not even like it's just in the league, it's all competitions. And that mentality that he's instilled in, the amount of times especially over the last couple of months where I've seen screenshots on Twitter of the scores from Leverkusen games where they're a goal or 2 down with 10 minutes to go, and everyone's like, oh well, the run ends here, and they won 3-2. What are the chances? Again, high, because he's just there's that mentality. It's just what he's instilled in these players. It's like, right, a game of football now lasts 95 to 100 minutes, and you play for 100 minutes, and heads don't drop, and that's why they've been as successful as they have. That they've got that incredible mentality. And with somebody like Xabi Alonso as well, he's everybody loves Xabi Alonso because he was such a wonderful player. One of a standout Spanish midfielder in a generation of standout Spanish midfielders as well. So he's earned people's respect through his playing career, and somebody like that, you're like, right, you want that person's respect as a manager. So, it's extra impetus to play. But the fact that he's done that is nothing short of incredible.
Yeah.
And it's been a very, very long time since I've come anything close to replicating something like that on Football Manager. Obviously, people are listening to this and saying, actually, Rich, there are valid comparisons between you and Xabi Alonso as managers because, because of what you've done with that Manchester United side. I'm like, thank you for saying that, because now I've said it out loud. I actually think it's very correct. I think
you get Rich. Let's not diminish the absolute incredible feat you did of getting Harvey Barnes a winner's medal. I think it's incredible.
Absolutely. And
and again, there are a couple of things that I think can come out of what you were just saying then that are really interesting. So we talked about Xabi Alonso potentially turning down these big clubs for next season, etc. And I think that's amazing. And we will see whether it actually turns out to be that that's the case or not. And this is not a slight on him at all, but you mentioned Jeremy Frimpong as being one of the key people within that Leverkusen side. Are you as sure that he won't be at a big club next season? And I'm not. And he's got the perfect person in the midst of his team showing the loyalty and dedication to the cause. Yet I still think one of these big teams will come in and he will leave them, because that is how football works usually. And that is what the norm is in football. So I think, again, it's another demonstration of how incredible Alonso actually is to stand against that a little bit, even when potentially some of his bigger players are going to get sold in and around him. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you mentioned what it would be like if he went to Real Madrid as his first club and won a bunch of stuff and then walked away. And would there be this thing of, yes, but it was Real Madrid? Now, there's a level in which any team that you can manage and take to success, it doesn't matter who they are. Look at Bayern this year. Not Nagelsmann, Tuchel did not manage it. And he should have potentially on paper. So if you can, even at the likes of Real Madrid, you have done something that's pretty spectacular, etc. But as a Man United fan, I sit in the position currently where my manager is under threat of potentially losing his job at some point, because let's face it, hasn't been very good this season in a lot of ways. And if he went at the end of it, not many people will go, well, that's a travesty and it shouldn't have happened. If our manager next season is Zidane, do I have utmost confidence in Zidane being able to take a club like Man United, who are really, really struggling, have not been good for X amount of years, and actually turn us into something that is similar to what his Real Madrid side was like? I don't necessarily have that confidence, because I never saw him have to do it. I saw him have to tweak a few bits and pieces for a very good structured club that had incredibly gifted players. He set them in the right way and he won a ton of stuff, and he has my respect for it. But if next season, in some hypothetical, mystical world, in the fact that Bayern are looking for a manager, Liverpool are looking for a manager, and Real Madrid might be looking for a manager, and Alonso doesn't go to them, and in a year from that, the only option is that Ten Hag's contract runs down and then Man United come on it, and he shows up at Man United, do I have more faith in him currently to figure out how to move us forward and make us into something over someone like Zidane at the moment? Yes, I probably do, because he's demonstrated he can do it with a non-fashionable club that are not the same structure and not the same weight of some of the clubs around them. And that's where I feel my team is at. And that's a weird thing for a Man United fan to say about Xabi Alonso, who was not a Man United player, let's face it. He was everything but. But that's how I see it, and I might be wrong, and there'll be people telling me in the comment section that I am totally wrong, that you shouldn't diminish Pep because all he's ever done is win things at really big clubs where he's kind of expected to do so. He has my respect for doing it. Do I want to see him take an underperforming, underdeveloped club and see what he can do with them? Yes. It doesn't mean that I don't respect what he's already done, because I have that question. Can he do it with that sort of setup? Alex Ferguson, who was the best manager, in my opinion, ever in the Premier League, did it with Man United at a time when they weren't successful. And he also did it against the old firm with Aberdeen up in Scotland. And he proved that he could take a juggernaut eventually, like what he had at United, and keep reproducing it and reproducing it and reproducing it. But he also took the underdog and made them something. And those are the sorts of managers I'm interested in, that have got this vast breadth. And I think you were right. If he'd have just gone in at Real, people would still question, can he do it somewhere that's slightly not that? But look what he's done. This is ridiculously amazing and fantastic. So I think, yeah, there's some amazing stuff going on right now with Leverkusen. And to a point, I hope he stays. I really do. I hope that he stands by what he said and he sticks it out at Leverkusen for at least another year and figures out what that looks like for him. Because let's face it, next season is going to be really hard for Leverkusen, because Bayern are going to go, no, thank you very much. Hear me roar. Now, the third thing that I'd like to say, and this will be my last point on all of this, is that he's been brilliant. He's done amazing. What about the curse of Harry Kane? Does that have an impact on the Bundesliga? Harry Kane was supposed to be another part of the jigsaw of Bayern continuing their success. This was not going to be a player that made them into something. He was going to continue the tradition of what they are already doing and potentially push them in Europe a little bit. And let's face it, he could still do that. But what about the curse of Harry Kane? 11 seasons in a row, this Bayern Munich side have won the league. And at Tottenham, Harry Kane's basic statement when leaving Tottenham was pretty much, I need to go. I need to win things. Oh, dear.
Nope. That's somewhere in the corner of Bayern Munich dressing room. There's a bin. And in that bin is just a monkey's paw with like 3 fingers down. And Harry Kane's just crying over the top of it. I've used all 3 wishes. What have I done? It's honestly, it's quite incredible. You have to feel bad for Harry Kane in a roundabout kind of way, because again, objectively, one of the best strikers of his generation. And he moved into a Bayern Munich team that for the last 6 or 7 years had been structured around somebody like a Robert Lewandowski up front for them. And there are similarities between Kane, the way that Kane and Lewandowski play. And you think, right, he's going to slot straight into that team and he's going to score an absolute bucket load of goals. And in fairness, he did. It's just that they just forgot to defend at the same time. So, and it's an absolute madness. The motivation for them next season is going to be palpable. It's if Alonso stays at Leverkusen, I don't think the expectation is going to be that he defends his league title. I think the nature in which he's won it is nothing short of incredible. But there's that motivation for the other teams. There's that motivation for especially a Bayern Munich to come in and go, right, okay, we're going to spend big on a couple of players this summer, and we're going to put the gap between us and the second best team in Germany on paper is going to be so much bigger now. And if next season Bayern Munich win the league by 12, 13 points, everyone's going to go, yeah, fair enough. It wouldn't surprise me. The thing that Alonso has for him in that circumstance is that does not damage his stock at all, because there's only so much you can do against a proper juggernaut of a team, and when they're in form and when they're motivated, it's going to be hard to beat them in any capacity, in the context of a league table, in the context of just a game of football. So if Alonso stays at Leverkusen, which I also hope that he does, it does not damage his stock at all. He's already done the impossible. He's already beaten one of the most dominant teams in German footballing history. And there are people that are like, oh, but this isn't such a great thing. Comparatively, let's look at, previous Bayern Munich teams. Nah, you're kidding yourselves. It's a very, very good Bayern Munich team, especially within the context of the Bundesliga. Not in wider Europe. For Alonso to have done what he's done is incredible. If Bayern win it by 12, 13 points next season, nobody's going to be surprised, but it doesn't, because Alonso's already done it at that point. He's already won that league title. And I really, really hope he goes undefeated, because that would be the icing on the cake, wouldn't it? I really hope he does that.
It really would.
But it's not the deal breaker. It's not the end of all things. But another few seasons at Leverkusen, and then he goes where he goes. But whichever club he goes to, he's going to be a massive asset to. So
what we've decided is that this season, this summer, should I say, coming up, Liverpool, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, maybe Real Madrid all get new managers, and they're all great. And so eventually he does end up at Man United in a year from now when Ten Hag's contract runs out. Brilliant. Oh, I like it. Thanks. That's made me feel
there you go. We've talked it into existence.
I am aware that there'll be half the Man United fan base going, no, he's a Liverpool player. We can't have him in. I say, stuff that. If he's good and he knows what he's doing, bring him in, because he's a good candidate for the job. So thank you, Rich. I feel a lot better about that.
Hey, anytime. What we're going to, just for context, after we finish this record, I'm going to message Jebaru, and I'm going to say, at about 5 to 12, did you just feel like somebody walked over your grave? Just to get the shivers, because did you manifest something weird on the podcast? Like we did. As it turns out, we've talked Alonso into the United job in a year's time.
I can't see what other options he's got.
No, neither can I. Maybe the Wednesday. Maybe the Wednesday if Danny Roll decides to go. But who knows? Who knows? There you go. There's his rebuild. There's his challenge. Lovely. Well, I think we've almost gone full circle there, Kev. We've almost gone full. It feels good. It feels good.
Fantastic.
Doesn't it just? That very much to me, Kev, feels like a podcast. I don't know about you.
It does. It definitely does. And I think it was a good one as well. So well done, you.
No, well done you, Kev.
Well done us.
Well done us. You've held it together spectacularly, and I'm very proud of you. Before we go, if the people would like to watch you and negotiating with your Stoke players as to whether you can just go on. Go on. Where can they find you doing that this week, pal?
Oh, in a padded cell somewhere, if last week was anything to go by. But actually, you can find me at the United City FM on Twitch every weekday afternoon, 3 till 5 p.m. And yeah, this week we've got about 8 or 9 games left of the Premier League season. We are about a point or two behind Sunderland, who currently have the 17th position. We are in 18th. But here's the rub, Rich. And most of this is going to come out for most people after it happens. On Monday afternoon, my first game is against Sunderland. Ooh, if I can get out of that relegation zone and above them, there is a chance. If they beat me and go 4 or 5 points clear with those sort of 7 or 8 games to go, I think we're going to find it hard. But we shall see what happens. What about yourself, Rich? We're back to... what's the story, former glory, after your retro database save, aren't we? And that came back.
We are.
So we're where back. Are you at with that? And when are you going to be streaming it?
Well, we're back. I've picked up where I left off with Ajax and couldn't remember a thing. And it's all very, very slow. Look, if you've watched the network game on a Monday night, you will know that if we don't play it for a little while, everyone kind of goes in, oh God, what were we doing? That, but with like a 6-week gap in between playing games, basically. But it's going well. The league is going very, very well. Made it through the Champions League group stage, which is very exciting. So we're wrapping up the season. I'm hoping we've got about a 9 or 10 point gap at the top of the Eredivisie at the moment, Kev. So I'm hoping we can maintain that and win the Eredivisie for the first time in a few years with Ajax, which will be lovely.
Yep.
Which is all good. I have put a caveat in if you've not been in streams recently. If the Benfica job becomes available in my save, Kev, I have to go for it because I feel like breaking the 100-year curse with Benfica is the natural conclusion.
It's a brilliant save to do, isn't it?
It feels like it's the right thing.
A lot of fun. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's fantastic. Just one other thing before we wrap it up completely about this coming week is that I know that for Patreon specifically, but if you're listening to this on the Tuesday, it will be good info for you too, is that we won't be doing the network save this Monday evening because Jeb's not available. So it might be Thursday this week. If we are going to be able to fit one in, you'll have to watch out later in the week. So yeah, if you're listening to this on Tuesday, you did not miss the network save last night. It could potentially happen later in the week. We will see.
Yes. Good to know, because according to Jeb, I've got 3 world-class goalkeepers at the club, and nobody seems to want to buy any of them. So, hey, who knows?
Yeah,
who knows? So. If only there was somebody in the market for a goalkeeper that was willing to lend one to, Kev. But we'll see. We'll see what happens on Thursday.
I'm in the market for so much that I've confused myself and I don't know what I need anymore.
is one of my goalkeepers, please.
Right. Okay. I'll take Seaman for 20 quid.
No. Okay, there you go. Negotiations, IRL. That's how they work. That's how you negotiate. Good. Kev, it's been an absolute pleasure this morning, mate. I've missed you terribly last week, so it's been lovely to spend some time in your company this morning. So thank you very much. And also thank you, the audience, for watching, for listening, however you are consuming this podcast. We appreciate you enormously. We will see you next week where, another spoiler, we might have a little bit of a guest. We might have a guest. Everybody, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Nope. But there's talk of a guest. No, we need to talk. It's an audio-based podcast, Kev. Otherwise, it gets a bit weird. Yeah. So yeah, join us next week. We'll be back, hopefully, with a Jeb and/or a Callum and/or a guest. Imagine that. Imagine that. You'll have to come back next week and find out who it is.
I will
do that. Good. I'm thinking about it. I'm willing to commit to being able to do that next week. So we'll see you then. Sound good? I think that sounds like a great plan. So thank you for listening, watching, however you're consuming another episode of Football Manager Therapy. And we will see you on the next one. Take care. Love you lots. Bye-bye.